NHL trade rumors are intensifying, with the Buffalo Sabres reportedly targeting two prominent St. Louis Blues forwards, center Robert Thomas and right winger Jordan Kyrou. This speculation arises as the Sabres look to bolster their roster significantly ahead of the upcoming NHL trade deadline. The objective for Buffalo is clear: end a protracted 14-year playoff drought by acquiring star talent capable of making an immediate impact. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Blues, currently struggling, appear poised to become sellers, making their key players attractive assets for contending teams. The Buffalo Sabres currently hold a 27-17-5 record, placing them fourth in the Atlantic Division and firmly in the playoff picture. This positioning, coupled with their extensive 14-year absence from the postseason, fuels immense pressure and motivation to make impactful moves. The organization and its fan base are eager for a return to playoff hockey, making the current trade deadline a critical juncture. Conversely, the St. Louis Blues are navigating a challenging season, which positions them as a likely source of talent for teams seeking upgrades. This dynamic is common at the trade deadline, where playoff contenders target struggling franchises for potential roster enhancements. The Blues' recent performance has already ignited widespread speculation regarding the availability of their key players, with Thomas and Kyrou frequently mentioned in trade discussions. Robert Thomas, a 24-year-old center, is a primary target for the Sabres. Buffalo has a well-documented need for a true number one star center to anchor their offensive attack. Thomas is precisely the type of player who could immediately fill this crucial role. His name has consistently appeared in trade rumors as the Blues have underperformed. Thomas is not a rental player. He is signed through the end of the 2030-31 season with an $125 million annual cap hit. This long-term commitment indicates that any acquisition would be a foundational move for Buffalo, not merely a short-term fix. A significant factor in any potential trade involving Thomas is his no-trade clause, which would require his approval for a move to Buffalo. This season, Thomas has recorded 11 goals and 33 points in 42 games for St. Louis, a solid performance despite his team's struggles. Throughout his career, he has been recognized as a high-impact, two-way center with exceptional playmaking abilities. Should he join the Sabres, he could immediately elevate their top six forward group and significantly improve their power play efficiency. The acquisition cost for a player of Thomas's caliber, age, and contractual stability would undoubtedly be very high, likely involving significant draft capital and promising prospects. Jordan Kyrou, a 25-year-old right winger, is another Blues star reportedly on the Sabres' radar. Reports suggest that St. Louis is open to listening to offers for Kyrou, indicating a potential willingness to move him. For the Sabres, acquiring Kyrou would add a proven top-six winger with substantial scoring potential. His track record includes recording at least 70 points in 3 of his last 4 seasons, demonstrating consistent offensive output. While Kyrou is experiencing a down year, with 9 goals and 21 points in 40 games on what is described as an ice-cold Blues team, his past performance suggests significant bounce-back potential. Prior to this season, he had scored at least 31 goals in each of his last 3 campaigns. Like Thomas, Kyrou also carries an $125 million cap hit, with his contract extending until the end of the 2030-31 season. He also possesses a no-trade clause, which would need to be waived for any move to Buffalo. His speed and scoring touch could integrate well with Buffalo's existing core of young, skilled forwards. While his current season poses a degree of risk, his proven scoring ability represents a high reward if he can rediscover his previous form. From the Blues' perspective, trading key assets like Thomas and Kyrou would signal a clear shift towards a retooling or rebuilding phase. In return for such valuable players, St. Louis would undoubtedly seek significant draft capital and/or high-potential young prospects to replenish their system. Moving these substantial contracts would also free up considerable salary cap space, providing flexibility for future roster construction. The Sabres' pursuit of players with long-term contracts like Thomas and Kyrou indicates a strategy beyond just a single season. They are looking to build a sustainable contender. Such aggressive buying signals Buffalo's seriousness about contending not only this season, but also in the long term. This strategy would require careful asset management, as the Sabres would need to evaluate which prospects or draft picks they are willing to part with. Trades involving players with long-term, high-value contracts and no-trade clauses are inherently complex, The market value for both Thomas and Kyrou is expected to be exceptionally high, and it is highly probable that other playoff contending teams would also express interest in acquiring their services. The coming weeks leading up to the trade deadline will reveal whether the Sabres can execute such ambitious moves to solidify their playoff aspirations. The Buffalo Sabres' current standing places them fourth in the Atlantic Division, boasting a 27-17-5 record that firmly positions them as potential playoff contenders. This relative success, however, is underscored by a profound historical context: a 14-year absence from the postseason. This extended playoff drought creates immense pressure and significant motivation for the Sabres' front office to make impactful moves. Their current performance suggests they are on the cusp of breaking this streak, amplifying the urgency to acquire talent that can push them over the threshold. Conversely, the St. Louis Blues find themselves in a precarious situation. The team is currently struggling, making them a likely seller at the upcoming trade deadline. Their performance has not met expectations, leading to widespread speculation about the future of key players. This dynamic sets up a classic trade deadline scenario where teams in clear playoff contention like Buffalo actively target struggling teams, such as St. Louis, for significant roster upgrades. The Blues' recent performance has indeed fueled widespread speculation about potential player movements, transforming their roster into a potential goldmine for buyers. Within this context, the Sabres' primary target, Robert Thomas, a 24-year-old center, addresses a critical need. Buffalo has been actively seeking a true number one star center to anchor their offensive lines, a role Thomas is uniquely positioned to fill. His acquisition would immediately provide the Sabres with a high-caliber player, capable of driving play and elevating the performance of his linemates. Thomas has been a prominent name in trade rumors precisely because of the Blues' struggles, making him a realistic, albeit expensive target. His contractual status further complicates matters, but also makes him incredibly valuable. He is signed until the end of the 2030-31 season with an $125 million cap hit. This long-term commitment means he would not merely be a rental player, but a foundational piece for years to come. However, Thomas possesses a no-trade clause, which grants him significant control over his destination, requiring his explicit approval for any move to Buffalo. In his current season with St. Louis, Thomas has recorded 11 goals and 33 points in 42 games, showcasing his consistent offensive production even amidst team difficulties. His career trajectory points to him being a high-impact, two-way center renowned for his strong playmaking abilities and responsible defensive game. Should the Sabres successfully acquire him, Thomas could immediately elevate their top six forward group and significantly improve their power play efficiency, which has been an area of focus for improvement. The acquisition cost for a player of Thomas's caliber, given his age, favorable contract, and skill set, would undoubtedly be very high, likely involving significant draft capital and promising prospects. Jordan Kyrou, a 25-year-old right winger, represents another compelling target for the Sabres. Reports suggest that St. Louis is open to listening to offers for Kyrou, indicating a potential willingness to move him despite his talent. For Buffalo, acquiring Kyrou would add a proven top-six winger with substantial scoring potential. His track record is impressive, including recording at least 70 points in 3 of his last 4 seasons, demonstrating a consistent ability to generate offense. While Kyrou is experiencing a down year with 9 goals and 21 points in 40 games on what is widely described as an ice-cold Blues team, his past performance suggests significant bounce-back potential. Prior to this season, he had scored at least 31 goals in each of his last 3 campaigns, showcasing his proven ability to find the back of the net. Like Thomas, Kyrou also carries an $125 million cap hit, with his contract extending until the end of the 2030-31 season. He also possesses a no-trade clause, which would need to be waived for any move to Buffalo. His speed and scoring touch could integrate well with Buffalo's existing core of young, skilled forwards, adding another dynamic offensive threat. While his current season poses a degree of risk due to his dip in production, his established scoring ability represents a high reward if he can rediscover his previous form within a new system. The Sabres would be betting on his proven track record and potential resurgence. From the St. Louis Blues' perspective, trading key assets like Thomas and Kyrou would unequivocally signal a strategic shift towards either a retooling or a full-scale rebuilding phase. Such a decision would not be made lightly, as both players represent significant investments and integral parts of their current roster. However, given their struggles and the current standings, moving these players could be a necessary step to realign the franchise's trajectory. The Blues would undoubtedly be looking for a substantial return for these assets, likely demanding a package that includes significant draft capital and/or high-potential young prospects. This approach would allow them to replenish their organizational depth and acquire future building blocks. Furthermore, moving these substantial contracts, each carrying an $825 million cap hit, would free up considerable salary cap space. This financial flexibility would be crucial for future roster construction, enabling the Blues to pursue new talent through free agency or absorb other contracts in subsequent trades, thus accelerating their retooling efforts. For the Buffalo Sabres, pursuing both Thomas and Kyrou indicates an aggressive stance, solidifying their position as serious buyers at the upcoming trade deadline. This aggressive approach underscores their commitment to ending the prolonged playoff drought and signals their intent to contend not just for this season, but for the foreseeable future. Targeting players with long-term contracts, such as Thomas and Kyrou, demonstrates a strategic vision that extends beyond merely acquiring rental players for a short-term playoff push. It suggests the Sabres are aiming to integrate these players into their core for multiple seasons, building a sustainable contender. However, this strategy also necessitates meticulous asset management. The Sabres would need to carefully consider which prospects or draft picks they are willing to part with, balancing the immediate benefit of acquiring star talent against the long-term health of their prospect pipeline. The potential return for the Blues would largely dictate the feasibility of these trades, requiring Buffalo to offer a compelling package without completely mortgaging their future. The overall dynamics of any potential trade involving Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou are inherently complex. Deals of this magnitude, involving players with high-value, long-term contracts and no-trade clauses, are rarely straightforward. The presence of a no-trade clause for both players adds an additional layer of negotiation, as their explicit approval would be required for any move to Buffalo. This gives them significant leverage and could influence the final destination or terms of a trade. The market value for both players is expected to be exceptionally high, reflecting their skill, age, and contract status. While Kyrou is experiencing a down year, his proven track record ensures competitive interest. It is highly probable that other playoff contending teams, facing similar needs for top-tier talent, would also be keenly interested in acquiring either Thomas or Kyrou. This competition could drive up the asking price, further complicating negotiations for the Sabres. Ultimately, any successful acquisition would require a confluence of factors: the Blues' willingness to sell, the players' consent to a move to Buffalo, and the Sabres' ability to assemble a trade package that satisfies the Blues' demands while aligning with their own long-term strategic objectives. The approaching trade deadline will reveal whether Buffalo can execute these ambitious moves to transform their roster and finally break their playoff curse.